first meeting, January 6, 2020, Board of Trustees. We could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Please let the roll show that we are all present. Moving on to the approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
I'll support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to the approval of the agenda. I do have one agenda item I would like to add, if everyone's okay with that. I'd like to add a discussion to the end of new business H for public roads. I'd like to have a discussion about public roads.
What was that?
About public roads.
Okay.
H.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to announcements and communications. We have communication here tonight. I asked Catherine Rivara from the Center for Active Adults to come in and kind of give you a little synopsis of what the center does. And I'd like to invite Catherine up to the microphone. She's a great director for our center, and she's done a wonderful job.
Thank you for having me. I could talk about the center for hours, but I'll try to keep it pretty short for you guys. I don't know if any of you have been to, I call it my center, even though I'm only one of 3,500 people who use the center every year. We have been in the same location in the South Lyon High School since 1990. They built the center for the residents of the larger South Lyon area in 1990 when they built the school. We have so many activities going on every day in the center. Today we had over 200 people walk through the door, which is a big day for us, but being closed for the 2-week holiday, everyone was so excited to get back. I personally led an exercise class for 40 people today, which brought in over $100 for the center, so it's always active, always busy, always going, and continuing to grow, which is an amazing thing. To me, the most special thing about the center is how unique it is. If you go to a lot of the other community centers, senior centers in the local area, they are not true community centers very much anymore. I love Novi. It's a great city. But if you go to their older services center, you go in, you do your program, you leave, you register online. You don't really spend time there as a community. We have people who come and meet their high school friends that they graduated with 60 years ago and have lunch at my center. That is such an amazing opportunity for so many of our community members. That doesn't happen in a lot of places. So I feel blessed to go every day. I love my job. I don't know how many of you get to say that you love your jobs, but I absolutely love my job. I love going there every day. I love the challenges of my job, which there are in any job. I love my team, and most of all, I love all the members who come. I am getting a little cold, so pardon my scratchy voice. We have 20 exercise classes a week, 20 card games playing every week. We serve lunch 4 days a week, 4 days a month rather, and we are continuing to grow. We do have some challenges. We fundraise 20% of our daily operating budget every year, which is a daunting task for me being the only full-time employee there, and I have 2 part-time staff members and a slew of volunteers who are wonderful. I would love to be able to stay there and to watch the center grow and improve and change, which is why I think it's so important to come to talk to you guys, just so you understand what an amazing value it is for the center to have the support of all the local municipalities, and what a great value it is for our members. If you live in Lyon Township, the city of South Lyon, or Green Oak Township, they get to come and participate for nothing to join the center. If you live outside, it's $37 a year to be a member of my center, which is really nothing. It's less than 2 yoga classes if you go anywhere else. And we have such an amazing value for that $37 a year. Like just to bring yoga up as an example, we teach yoga classes there 5 days a week for $5 a class. The average drop-in any yoga studio is $18 to $25 a class. So you can practically go for a whole month of yoga in my center, which you can do for one class in any yoga studio down the street, in Milford, anywhere that you would go. It really just truly is a wonderful, special place, and it would truly be a missed opportunity not to allow it to grow. Mindfully, of course, we can't have 10,000 new members join tomorrow. We can't take the space. But with the continued growth of all the surrounding communities, it will continue to grow and will continue to need the support of the local communities. So I just wanted to come in and thank you for that opportunity to lead the center and to be the custodian of such a wonderful place. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about it or concerns for the future for it.
Okay, Catherine, hey, I'll tell you, we did have a few questions at the last meeting, that we did up the kitty for the center, which I think was great for this board to do. I mean,
It's
we gave
amazing.
some more
Yes.
money to the system. It's a wonderful place. But I think, at least you had some questions about how things were funded or how they were, and I couldn't answer that, and I know Catherine could answer that.
I was just curious, if there's a resident who comes from Lyon Township and let's say you have an X number of dollars from Lyon Township, you don't ever turn anybody away?
Oh, no.
Okay.
They come in and they sign the membership fee. We have a contract with Lyon Township for a certain amount of dollars, and we match member per dollar, so that $37 a year, that operating cost, which changes every year a little bit depending on how much money the center brings in. And then so we do the math and we say, well, for $37 a year, divided up by how many members we have, and that's what we bill for. So we never go over the contracted amount for what we bill you.
Oh.
But we would never tell a member, oh, I matched my dollar amount for the Lyon Township, try again next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to make sure that everybody who wanted to come was able to participate.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we have our board meetings at the center for the board there, and the people that are there are so happy, and there's so many of them, and it's really used. I mean, if you ever stopped and took a look, I'm sure Catherine would walk you around.
Come take an
and-
exercise class.
And it's very, very cool. But any other questions? Go
Do you
ahead,
have
Sean.
woodworking classes there?
We have wood carving group.
Okay.
And they
Because I
meet
hear all
twice a
about it.
week. Yes, they're awesome.
Yeah.
They're so talented. That's another wonderful thing about the center is how much talent shows up there between the wood carvers and the knitters and crocheters and the painters and everyone else who comes there to share their talents. It is really an amazing place. The wood carvers are awesome. I call them my woodies. They're awesome.
And the people that are there like the place so much is they'll donate large items like the water fountain per se, and they'll get
Yes.
a brand new water purification system. It's all donated by someone that went to the center for many years and may have had.
And still comes. She just wanted us to have great water. So if you want to know what a $1,300 water fountain looks like, come check out my new water fountain.
See, now if you were in Lyon Township, you would need that.
I don't know what you had going on a few weeks ago, but I was at the high school for a basketball game, and there were all these baskets, like, I don't know.
Oh,
on
my
the table.
raffles, yes.
Something was going on. I was like peeking in the window and wanted to put some tickets in some of the.
It's our largest
Good, so-
fundraiser of the year. We
Okay.
raised $5,000 this year for the center during our 12 Days of Christmas raffle. And those are all items that are donated by the members themselves. So the different groups come together and they bring me baskets. I help them make them all super pretty. And then we sell the raffle tickets. And it's part of that 20% of our daily operating budget, which is fundraising and
There were
donations.
some impressive baskets, and there were quite a few of them I saw on the table.
I know, I always want to win them, but I'm not allowed.
Catherine, what's
Yes.
the age that
You can join at
participate?
50. We do allow, so especially for like our yoga classes in the evenings and different things, that if they want to come and pay the daily membership rate, that they can come and participate for the day, even if they're not 50, but they do have to kick in a little extra. But generally, everyone is, to be a member of the center is 50 and above.
I fit that.
You should all join. If you live in Lyon Township, it's free.
So do I.
Any other questions for Catherine? Okay. Well, thank you, Catherine,
You're
for
welcome.
coming in
Thank you
and
for
taking the
having me.
time.
Really appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. Okay, moving on. Any other announcements, communications? Anyone have anything?
I do.
ahead.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Oh, I just saw that the Department of Natural Resources is running a Run for the Trees virtual 5K, and it's run for the Happy Little Trees, you know, the painter.
Bob Ross.
Yes. So there's it's a virtual 5K, and I do know that Island Lake State Recreation Area is going to end up putting an activity together. The details are not out really yet, but for $34, you can get a T-shirt and a medal. Of course, Mr. O'Neill, you would have to finish that 5K.
I figured that it was going to come.
Yes.
The comments were going to come back
Yes.
this way. Yeah.
But
Can I be pushed around like or
you
pulled in
may
a wagon?
not.
You said it was virtual, so.
It is virtual, but
Alright.
you do actually have to take a step, and
Alright.
but
Seems like a lot of work.
it will support tree replanting efforts in the state parks. So I thought that was an interesting activity that's pretty close to all of us.
Thanks, Lise.
Okay, mine real quick is that we've got a presidential primary coming up March 10th, if you weren't aware. And we are looking for anyone who is willing to work in the polling places. We are in desperate need because that March, we lose a lot of our steady help because they all go to Florida. So I will be shorthanded, and I am looking for anyone who would like to volunteer their time and work the polling places. So if you know of anybody who's interested, I take 16 years and up. Those young whippersnappers love the computer, so we love to have them, but we also need other help. If you're not that great on the computer, we would still love to have you. So just looking for help, and I will check to make sure. I'm pretty sure there's an application for being an election inspector on our website. If you have trouble getting to that, you can always stop by the office. We have them here. Would love to have you submit if you could, and would be interested in working a presidential primary. It's pretty interesting. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Michelle. Anyone else? All right, seeing no other, we're going to move on to call the public. So you can come on up and talk about things non-agenda related. Please name and address for the record.
Frank Socorfos, 24233 Terra Drive, South Lyon, Michigan, 48178. I'm here to complain about a public nuisance according to Section 8-1 of the ordinance of dogs repeatedly barking behind our house and ruining our enjoyment of life or property. It's just getting out of control. All these dogs barking, and according to the special land use, they're not allowed to even board dogs. And I don't know how they swept through the cracks. I'm speaking for my family. My wife's been there before the kennel was created. Unfortunately, she's not able to come here. She's 9 months pregnant. And also, out of our kitchen window, we look at a dumpster. I mean, I don't think a dumpster should be visible from any adjacent property lines. I think it's in the ordinances, I'm not sure. But there's a dumpster in our backyard. We stare at a dumpster all day long. And also, we've talked to someone else at the township about a broken fence. The fence that's on our property has been broken for over a year and a half, and we've also stated that before. So I'm hoping that you guys can help me out. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else like to come on up? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to reports. Tina, DDA?
Happy New Year, everyone. Good evening. Okay, the DDA board had its regular meeting on December 10th, and I wanted to focus on some of the items that we discussed at that meeting. The DDA is working to address the New Hudson Drain Cleanout Project and has sent a letter to the MEDC requesting some additional funding to assist us with that project. We were told initially when we met in December that there would be funding available, but not in the hundreds of thousands that we were hoping for, more like $50,000 that they could contribute towards the project initially until they have a better understanding of it. So we certainly would accept whatever money they would award to us, and we're looking forward to hearing back from them on that. Also in December, we met with SEMCOG to explore options on additional funding. And because we're members of SEMCOG, one of the services they provide is to research any type of grant opportunities for us, and they have identified 2. So we'll be exploring those again this month when we meet as a committee to review those funding options. We did identify some state infrastructure capacity enhancement grants, and it was a little disappointing because our drain project is perfect for that type of grant. But it was explained to us that we're not eligible because those types of monies that are funded through the state come from the CDBG funding. And Oakland County is one of a few counties that manages that funding on their own. And when you manage it on your own, it makes all of your communities ineligible for the ICE grant. So that was a little disappointing to learn that because we would have been a perfect candidate for it. So again, just wanted to give you an update on some of the steps that are being taken to find and identify funding to reduce any type of tax burden for the clean out of that drain. Our promotions committee will continue to release some of videos that have been created spotlighting our downtown businesses. They're posted on the DDA Facebook page, and they've been received very well. We posted the first video, and we had over 5,000 views and shares, so that was very exciting. The committee is also going to be exploring this year putting together some type of an event in the downtown where we would actually close down Grand River temporarily for some type of a music event or a festival event. We've had very successful events up here in the park, but we want to bring some more activities down to the downtown core area. The DDA is also due for an update of our downtown vision plan. So we had McKenna present to the DDA board information on the cost and what it would involve in order to go through the process of creating a new vision plan or updating our vision plan. And the DDA board would like to postpone that effort until we finish addressing the clean out of the drain. But we should be addressing that sometime this year. And then I just wanted to give you an update too on if anyone has driven the New Hudson Drive area, we had some problems with our street lighting. It's funny, some people haven't noticed it at all, and some of us have definitely noticed it. Those lights were installed in 2010, and what we were finding is that they were having intermittent problems. So sometimes you would drive by and all the lights would be lit, another time maybe half, another time some of them were dim. And what we found out is that we had a problem with the ballast, which is the part that controls that. And so the DDA paid to have all of those light bulbs replaced. And that was done over the holiday break. And so if anyone's driving down that street, you're going to see a significant improvement in the lighting. And we haven't done the roundabout yet, but that should be done this week. And then we also found a part, if you see the lights on during the day like they were today, it's because we found a part that has failed. And that controls our dusk to dawn feature, so we're getting that repaired as well this week. So. And then also just wanted to remind folks that Kite Festival is coming up this year, June 6th and 7th, and we do have opportunities for sponsorship. So I've left some of these out on the table. We'll leave those out there throughout the coming months for anyone who's interested in sponsoring that festival. And also residents are encouraged to attend the monthly DDA meeting, which takes place on the second Tuesday of each month, right here at 7 p.m. And also encouraged to visit the DDA pages of the township website so they can learn more. And then lastly, I just wanted to give you an update. We have a year-to-date recap of the commercial and industrial development. This is the level of investment that has been based on construction values here in the township. Just to give you a comparison, in 2018, our level of investment was at $6,669,283,000, and this year we are over $45 million in total construction values, and that is for new developments here in the township. So I just wanted to give you that update. That would conclude my report.
Thank you, Tina. Any questions for Tina? All right, moving on. Chief?
Good evening. Happy New Year.
Good evening.
Obviously, the big story of New Year's Eve was the Lion Cantina fire, and the way our firefighters responded was admirable. Plus, we had plenty of support from our mutual aid resources, numerous communities, and the fire still sits currently determined as it's still under investigation. It's undetermined. I believe tomorrow that our fire marshal is meeting with the Oakland County Sheriff's Fire Investigation Unit, along with the investigators from the insurance company, and the owner of the business may be part of that meeting. So I can give you guys an update as soon as I hear something and send an email to, but it may be a couple weeks before we know for sure and the report is generated. As far as 2019, we ended up with a total of 1,553 calls, which is up 127 from 2018, and our 2 captains did start in January, so all 6 of our full-timers are on board. Our captain's first day on January 2nd, he was introduced with, getting slammed with 11 calls, so they were very busy. And but anyway, everything's going pretty smoothly there. So also, I wanted to just give you a heads up that as far as the talk about the ladder truck or the aerial, that we did have a meeting today, the truck committee did, and we really think that we're pretty close to having the details that we are looking for. So if all goes well, I would probably like to bring a proposal of some sort to you guys at the next meeting, and we can discuss how we're going to, if it's approved, how we would finance that, and what terms and things like that. So just, that's more of a heads up, and I'll probably meet with most of you, to discuss that further. Also, finally, I just wanted to recognize Deputy Chief Doug Berry. He became one of 1,400 chief fire officers designated as a CFO nationwide, and it is a lot of work to get that distinction. And so now he represents Lyon Township as a chief fire officer. So I wanted to give him that public tribute, and that concludes my report.
That's great.
Good.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Chief. Moving on. Lieutenant, got anything for us today?
No major issues to report, I just wanted to say Happy New Year to everyone.
Okay.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Planning Commission?
Well, very unusual. We had no meetings for the month of December. Both applicants were removed, or asked to be removed from each of the 2 meetings that were scheduled for December. So, but we do have one coming up next Monday. So I have nothing to report.
That's a first.
Yeah.
All right, moving on, CBA.
Well, our last meeting was September 16th of 2019, and I am gearing up for the exciting agenda of January 21st, which includes an approval of the draft minutes from September and election of officers. So, that's going to be an exciting one.
That's great. Thanks,
If you want to
Lisa.
come, I mean, it's
That's great.
might be entertaining.
All right, Robert, come on up. What you got?
So, unfortunately, we received a resignation from one of our members, so we now have a open spot. So if anyone hears anybody who might be interested, or if anybody out there is.
Are you guys going to actively kind of look as a board, or?
Yeah, I mean, we'll be looking, but the more people that
Know about it.
look, the more chance we have of.
Catherine can put it on our website too.
Yep. Okay, yep, that would be good. And we have the MParks conference coming up later this month. So.
Great.
What about our hockey rink? What's going on with that?
Well, it's been a little warm lately. That's
Yeah, but
that's
did
the
we get
first
it?
problem. No, not yet.
Did we order
But
it?
working on it.
Okay.
I will.
We haven't ordered it yet?
No.
Okay,
But,
just asking.
yep.
All right, thanks, Robert. Thank you. All right, moving on, DPW, Bob.
Thank you, John. As Tina commented, the lights are all on. We're very happy about that. I was out there with the contractor today, and he said he'd be back tomorrow, Tina, with the part to hopefully get them to turn on and off with the light and dark, so. And the other thing I'd like to let everyone know, Melanie and I have been working on presenting to the township webpage this year an update or an area of water topics that will change monthly, that will keep our community abreast to any changes in water, educational topics, anything that might make their life easier in that, about the water system, and just general DPW thing. So we've been working on that, Melanie and I, and we will be presenting that in the next month, so. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Any questions for Bob? Okay, let's move on to unfinished business. First is Artesian and Pioneer water discussion, and I do have a few things that I'd like to say. Ed is on a tour of a pellet softening plant in California, and he is going to come back next month with what it takes to run a pellet softening plant. He'll have a presentation for us, or he'll have a lot of pictures to show us the maintenance that it takes. If we were to say to Ed tomorrow that the pellet softening is the way we go, he could get that approved immediately. We could be serving soft water up. So I think it's something that we have to look at. If it's a situation where it's a little of maintenance, or we need a front end loader, or we need an extra guy to shovel sand in and out of hoppers, I think it's well worth it. But again, we'll have to take a look at it and see what it's all about. But it's the biggest breakthrough of the softened water that we've had so far, that we know we can get approved. I know everybody at this table wants softened water to be delivered to the residents, every person. I myself have been working on it nonstop for 3 years, and working with the DEQ and against the DEQ, and now Eagle, and it has been an absolute nightmare. Bob's been with me every day. They are just unmovable. And so I'm thinking if we can get behind this pellet softening, and if we can look at the process it takes to do that, I think we can have softened water for our residents, something that we've all been working hard for. So I just wanted to let you know, we are in the move doing that. We should have some ideas of what it takes to run it, maybe next month. So I don't know if you have anything to add. I mean, you can talk about the plants, because the next one's almost up.
As you know, the tower is filled, has been online for approximately 2 weeks. It's added pressure to areas of our township that had fluctuating pressures in the past. Things have evened out. At any given time, we now have 1,750,000 gallons of holding water in our towers, which we're very pleased about, and the plan is responding exactly the way we wanted it. With the completion of the South Hill plant, which is approximately 80% done, what we'll do is calibrate the 2 plants to feed all towers equally, and we are going to be more than ready for next summer, and we can't be happier how things are going.
We figure that with both plants running and the storage that we have in the air, they're going to be running at about less than 0.5%.
Yep.
In the middle of the summer.
So that means all the iron filters will work less hard, putting out even better iron-free water. Although it's wonderful now, it might even be a hair better. So we're very close.
Yeah, we've been getting iron counts at, what, 0.001, and we've had a few days of 0.000.
Oh, yeah.
We've never gotten as high as
That's in
0.05
the system that we're
throughout the
getting,
system.
not even at the plant.
Yeah.
So that's after it travels through pipes to get to a neighborhood that we do spot testing here and there, and we're very, very pleased. So.
Yeah, it's amazing water. It's really been something else. So everybody at this table should be proud of that. We did something for this community that needed to be done, and I'm telling you, it's really rewarding. It's a lot of fun to have water that's this quality. Any questions about that? All right, I think the next couple items are second readings, I believe, are they?
Yes.
Okay, so these are just housekeeping. Consideration of the adoption of the amendment to the Code of Ordinances cash deposit, number 1119.
I'll move the adoption of ordinance 11-19.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and the second one is a consideration of the sign ordinance requirements, number 1219.
John, I'd one.
Go ahead.
One question on this one. So, if this gets approved, how does it relate to the existing signs that are currently up around the township? Does that go into effect?
It's
In terms of taking them down?
Yeah, I would imagine yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say this would take effect and it would go to all the zoning signs. you know.
Okay.
Somebody want to make that motion?
I'll move the adoption of ordinance 12-19.
I'll support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to new business. Proposal for connection to Lyon Township Water Distribution System, Pulte Homes in Milford Township. I don't know, Leslie, do we want to go ahead? Do you want to open this up, Joe? You want to talk to Leslie? Do you want to move into this with your letter?
Sure.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and you can get it started.
Okay. In your packet, we have a letter dated December 30th, 2019, as well as a previous letter that was in your packet from June 1st of 2018. Pulte Homes is here tonight to request the township consider allowing the Lyon Township water system to be extended into Milford Township to support a proposed development on what I refer to as the levy parcel. At the time that we evaluated the water system in June of 2018, we did take into consideration a potential 1,100 units on that parcel. It's my understanding that the levy parcel has 1,153 units of sewer capacity in the Wixom system available to that parcel. At that time, in 2018, we did do a water CAD analysis, and we have found that the township could support all of those developments in Milford that have come before you on the northeast corner of Milford and Pontiac Trail, as well as the levy parcel, if you're inclined to allow the extension of the water main outside of your boundaries and with the cooperation of Milford Township. If that is something the board does approve, then there would be certainly more involvement with the township water team as far as evaluating exactly the water location, what portion is owned by Lyon Township, and those types of details. But tonight, really, Pulte is here to make that request.
I would think that if the board was favorable to the connection, I think it would be wise for a committee, once this all gets further along, an actual committee to sit down and figure all the details out. And I think that's probably the way we would work it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You want to come on up and
Good evening. I'm Joe Scora with Pulte Homes of Michigan. With me tonight is our project engineer, Pat Keese with Seaver Keese Engineering, and also Adriana Pachoco, who is the owner of the neighboring parcel, who also has an interest in this proposal. As Leslie mentioned, we are here tonight requesting a conditional conceptual approval to connect to the Lyon Township water distribution system for property in Milford Township. As you can see from the map, the levy parcel that Leslie mentioned is on the west side of Milford Road, just south of Maple, north of the expressway, and just this side of the Metro Park. It is approximately 431 acres. The Pachoco parcel, crossings of Milford, I believe, is on the northeast corner of Milford Road and Pontiac Trail, and that is approximately 36 acres. All subject to an SAD for sewer, as mentioned. Our proposal, as I should mention, that we have a couple different options for water, but we strongly prefer to purchase water from Lyon Township and tie into the system. In terms of the infrastructure, currently there are two dead-end water mains, one on Milford Road, adjacent to the Lyon Town Center property, and then another one on Pontiac Trail adjacent to the Alta lift truck property. Our proposal is to extend the sewer main north on Milford Road and west on Pontiac Trail, thereby creating a loop system, which obviously improves the integrity and the reliability of the system. And I should add that this is at no cost to the township. Pulte, its partners, and the future residents of these communities will bear the costs, whether direct or indirect, for any of the infrastructure improvements as I just mentioned. In terms of what we are proposing, and it's very early, but we are proposing on approximately 345 acres of the levy parcel, we are proposing a Del Webb community along with a smaller single-family conventional community. Del Webb is a national brand of Pulte. It is the leader and pioneer in active adult housing and communities, which effectively services the needs of those 55 years and older. It's also the recognized leader in highly amenitized communities. Some of the amenities that we're including with this proposal, and again, it's very early, so it's a little bit preliminary, but such examples are, grand scale clubhouse, resort style pool, bocce ball, pickleball, tennis, community gardens, dog parks, walking trails. It's truly resort style living for the active adult. Again, we think it benefits the township in a couple different ways. As I mentioned, the loop system, obviously there's a significant amount of revenue associated with not only the purchase of water taps, but the future water customers that would be involved with these two proposed communities. So we are respectfully requesting a conditional conceptual approval of this plan, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Go ahead. I'd like the board to ask as many questions as you have. Go ahead. Anyone want to start? Elise, you have anything you'd like to ask?
I really have, looking back at the letter that Leslie had provided in June for the crossing of Milford parcel, as long as this can meet the required peak day with fire flow, I don't really see an issue. So for me, some of the key items would be that as long as this connection would not negatively affect our water customers nor put fire protection of our township at risk, and if Milford Township is okay with this connection, I see really no downside. So as long as especially like I said, as long as our water customers are not negatively affected and our fire protection is not at risk, that's all I worry about.
Okay. Chris, got anything?
No, I mean, it's completing a loop with the system that we don't have to pay for, so that's definitely a positive. And in terms of fire protection, I guess, I mean, you've got a couple big businesses over there on Pontiac Trail that then would have access to hydrants along the route, so that's definitely a thing. But obviously, I mean, in terms of the development itself, it's, completely Milford Township's call on that. But in terms of the water main extension, I guess I'd be more curious on how we would handle it in terms of metering
that has to be
down
determined.
the road.
Yeah.
No, I guess I don't have an issue.
Okay, John?
The only questions I had were basically how it'll work if there's a water main break and the road caves in.
Yep.
Is that our job, or is it their job, or is that something the subcommittee will work out?
That's something the subcommittee will work on, because we've had a couple different ideas on that, but I think that's something that would have to get worked out. I think that's all
Agreed.
in the detail. No. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Sean?
In concept, I don't object to it for many of the reasons stated. I mean, it's a, opportunity to have some of our infrastructure needs addressed and taken care of by someone else, not our taxpayers. I'm sure we'd have to look at the rate structure, which I would expect to be different than the rate structure for our own residents. And I would just have questions on, other infrastructure. Will you need a water tower? If so, where would that be sited? And then it kind of goes back to some of the ongoing maintenance things. I mean, it seems like it would be easy to say, all right, Milford's our customer, and we plug into a system on their side, and then they're just responsible for, everything north of there.
I thought that way too, Sean, but then I started thinking about it's our system to protect. So, there are things that we'll have to work out, really.
Sure.
I think that's going to be in the detail.
And I think without going down that road too far, I mean, if you're looking for concept, I
that's what we're
think
looking
it's,
for.
Sure. I think it's a decent opportunity to work together, and I have no objection
Okay.
at this point.
Michelle, anything to add?
No, I agree with everybody else in what they're asking, and there's some work in the details that we
Sure.
don't and aren't sure of how it will be handled, but I'm sure we can figure that out. But I think it would be a great opportunity.
Patty?
Oh, I agree with everybody else on the board too. Plus, it's a great opportunity to prove that two communities can work together for one major goal. And, you know, we've asked other communities to help us and we didn't get such a great response. But I think it will be a great opportunity, and I definitely would like to be on that subcommittee if possible, mostly because of the billing and the finance part. So that's just my thoughts.
Well, I think we're gonna be down the road a little bit on something
Yeah.
like that, right? I mean, this is still your in concept. I mean, I think you're getting a nod from everyone
Yeah.
here that we're behind it, but we've got to get the details.
Yeah, and we'll work toward those. We're, in the process, and within 30 to 45 days, we expect to submit a formal PUD approval to Milford Township. So we have a sense of urgency. So we're happy to work
Okay.
with you, though.
So would you think a committee tonight or a committee, do you want to get a committee started tonight?
You
or
might
do
want to
you-
wait to see what Milford
Yeah.
Township does, actually.
Well, I think Milford's already said that they.
We've been in front of the township on this very request, and they, approved a motion to come talk to you and make the same request. And again, we've had some preliminary discussions with regard to this development, and we plan to formally submit, again, potentially within 30 days.
Would you like to set a committee up? You want to? I mean, are we,
I'd be willing to serve on a committee if it's not something that has to be done during normal work
well,
hours.
I think we're going to have, we're going to be meeting all the different hours. I think.
Whatever it takes, we're happy to, we don't want to inconvenience you.
I know that some people don't have some flexibility, so if somebody else wants to jump
Okay.
on board, that's fine, but
I can,
if not.
my schedule's usually pretty flexible, so I'm more than willing to help if needed.
Okay, so you got a whole
Another
bunch
one
of
the pluses
volunteers.
is the fact that
What's that?
rooftop, I see one of the pluses is the rooftops that we're
For the
looking
downtown?
forward to develop
Yeah.
our new.
Support
housing.
our businesses.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
going to be very
Exactly.
good for it. I agree.
Well,
Good
we can only put 3 on this committee, okay? And I definitely want to be on it. I need to be on it. So I don't, you probably should be on it because of the finances, and then I'm just open for Chris or Lise. I mean,
Whichever.
you guys
Well, you two
make
figure
it
it
up.
out. Tell us.
I have a longer reach. I might be able to,
Rock, paper, scissors. Okay. And let's,
Is
Do you have
this,
to-
one more question on this, is
Go
this considering both sides of Milford Road, both corners, is that?
It is.
what-
It is.
It is.
Okay.
That's true.
While you guys think about the committee, I have one quick question. What's your other option at this point to put in a private system?
A private system. Oh, well.
Okay.
Chris, Lise?
Talk
to me.
I'm available after 3:15 most days, so if that works for you,
When are you available, Chris?
I can usually make it,
Offer
make it
3:10.
work.
Offer 3:10.
I can be 3 o'clock, no, usually any time, pretty much, unless I have, my schedule's pretty flexible, so.
Well, you two fight it out.
Alright.
All right, so it's.
I'm always available, so.
We got it. We're pretty much set, so, okay.
Okay,
I
great.
think we're good,
All right, thank you.
okay? Just, Joe, go ahead and call me when you get things rolling, and I'll
Yeah.
get everybody together, and we'll get this thing rolling for you.
I will. Thanks, John.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
John, do we need to make any?
I don't know, Carol, do we have to we don't need a motion for
No,
anything here, do we?
No.
We give them the heads up,
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, because
or do you want a motion to feel better?
it's not,
No,
you can't really approve what,
Right.
without the details.
No, I understand. I mean, that's why I was looking for a conceptual approval, but it sounds like the support is there, and we can
Yeah.
move forward with that.
I think we're there.
Okay.
We can
Okay,
have
Alright.
them watch the video if they have questions.
I'm sorry?
We can have them watch the video if they don't believe
Okay,
it.
all right. Thank you.
See Steve
all right,
back.
thank you. What's that?
Steve. Steve's here.
Yeah, I've seen him there. All right, moving on, consideration of the introduction, oh wait, I'm ahead of myself. Consideration of the approval of Burger King special land use, AP 1945B, located 22700 Pontiac Trail, 9 Mile Road in Lillian. Brian?
Thank you, John. At the end of November, the Planning Commission held a public hearing to consider a special land use for a new Burger King restaurant on Pontiac Trail. Hop back here. The site is just south of Tuffy, across from Bigby on the east side of Pontiac Trail. It's this long, narrow parcel. And the actual infrastructure for the restaurant and the drive-through will be located towards Pontiac Trail, so there will be a significant portion of the property that would be left undeveloped. This is our B2 zoning district, and both fast food restaurants and drive-through uses require special land use approval. At the Planning Commission meeting, there were no public comments received during the public hearing. The Planning Commission had several comments on the site plan that were requested to be addressed, but nothing that affected the actual use recommendation coming from the Planning Commission, which is to approve the special land use. And then, as Patty mentioned earlier, later in the month, the site plan will be re-reviewed by the Planning Commission. In terms of general standards or review standards for special uses, the first would be compatibility with adjacent uses. I mentioned to the north is Tuffy, to the south is the gas station with the Jimmy John's. So we have no concerns with compatibility with those adjacent businesses. You'll note from the site plan here, the residential parcels that are to the north start right at this point here. So there are really two residential sites that would be potentially affected by this development. There is a significant landscape buffer along that northern property line. And what you're looking at here is an updated landscape plan versus what you have in front of you in paper. So some of the concerns of the Planning Commission have been addressed. An additional evergreen landscape buffer along the east side. The building has been moved away from the northern property line to the south a bit, so that we can maximize the distance between the residential use and the fast food structure. In terms of compliance with the master plan and zoning ordinance, this is a site that's designated for retail and service and office along Pontiac Trail. It's right in line with what we expect to see along that frontage. We'll defer to Leslie in terms of provision of public services, but we don't anticipate additional traffic impact for the use above and beyond what was planned for Pontiac Trail. We don't find that there are any hazardous impacts associated with this for adjacent uses. These are things that the ordinance calls for, introduction of hazardous materials or sounds and that sort of thing that should be considered. Another of our standards is based on need, and although we note and the Planning Commission noted that there wasn't a specific need identified in the application materials, these types of uses continue to grow both regionally, nationally, and locally. So, and I've heard many folks very excited to have Burger King back in the community. In terms of economic well-being, we don't believe that this proposed use will have a negative impact or a detrimental economic impact on the community. Our primary concern would be those residential parcels to the northeast of the building. But as I mentioned, there is a fair amount of landscaping, and that was one of the things that the Planning Commission spent some significant time in talking about, was making sure that those were protected. Other than those standards, we are generally in support of the use. We would note that if the board agrees that the approval or special land use is appropriate for the site, that a condition be placed on that approval for site plan approval by the Planning Commission when it goes back, potentially later this month. And I can take any questions or comments.
Anyone have any questions for Brian?
Well, I was just gonna say, will trees really buffer that noise though from a drive-through? I know we have a wall by the cemetery for the drive-through, and that's been pretty good actually, but I
And
haven't
those
hung
people
out
don't
there
complain.
a lot. Yeah, those people don't complain.
I'll say that the speakers are located here almost in the middle of the property. So
Okay.
we're talking, I'm ballparking here, 80, 90 feet away from the northern property line.
Okay, I see.
And we had some discussion at the planning
We did.
commission meeting about
Okay.
how the volume of those speakers is regulated. It's based on as I understand it, the ambient sound. It will go up and down depending on how much volume needs to be produced to reach those vehicles. But they are angled away from the residential properties to the north.
Yeah, we had exactly the same questions, Michelle, and they gave us a good explanation about how the speakers actually work. And they're so much more sophisticated
Now.
than back in the day. So, you know, as they're putting these buildings all over the place, fast food, they've got a good idea of it. Then we asked them for extra shrubbing and trees, and even to the back.
Okay.
So,
So the sound won't carry?
yes.
Well, I think the applicant's here. Would you like to stand up and answer any questions?
Well, if you'd like, if you have
Yeah,
any
you-
specific questions of Mr. Kesey.
Name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Mark Matthey. I'm an engineer with Manikin Smith out of our Monroe office.
Okay,
And I am here tonight representing Carroll's as the Burger King applicant.
okay. I'd like to bring him up in case there's any questions for
I-
him.
I have a question on the retention or detention. That does not go all the way into the property, is that correct?
No, it does not.
Would that be, we seem to always be wanting a place for stormwater. I said, would that be a place where perhaps somehow you could work out a greater than they need and make it
A regional?
a need for other?
They could. They do have
Potential?
property available east of the basin that's shown. I guess it's up to if the applicant would do that or not.
I guess to respond to that question, that is kind of an interesting question. In a way, what you're seeing on the right-hand side of the page is somewhat of a regional detention system. So this site has an existing county drain that bisects the parcel roughly where the building is located.
Okay.
So as part of our project, we're relocating that county drain. It will run along the southerly property line, along the frontage, and then back towards the Tuffy. And with that county drain, there's an existing floodplain that's on the flood insurance maps. So to be able to fill in that floodplain area, you have to provide a compensating volume to preserve that same amount of storage in a 100-year flood event. So the oblong shape on the right-hand side of the page is that 100-year floodplain compensating cut. And the volume that we're providing there is actually greater than the volume that we are proposing to fill within the floodplain. So while it's not a stormwater management system in the sense of a detention basin that would be constructed with a development, it is serving kind of that regional stormwater need, so to speak.
Thank you. Ask and answer.
Okay, any other questions here? Go ahead. Go ahead,
I just have one, and but before I get to that, I mean, you touched on that county drain relocation, and that does not appear to be a inexpensive endeavor that's going on based on the size of the pipe and rerouting it around the drive. So that is nice. And but my question is, we're going to be maybe 10 to 15 feet short on a sidewalk south of the parcel. Is there any ability to extend that to connect to the sidewalk at the Jimmy John's or gas station, or is that on private property, or is that in the right-of-way?
I'm actually not sure if there is expanded right-of-way in that parcel to the south. Pending cooperation with the neighbor, we would be happy to complete that sidewalk connection, absolutely. And if that takes some kind of an agreement or a grading permit with that neighboring property owner, we'd be happy to participate and take care of that connection.
I know, might not be, but.
Based on the county's right-of-way map, or the property gateway, it is on private property, it's not in the right-of-way.
Well, in the spirit of cooperation, I think to ask that neighbor who would benefit from it, I think wouldn't hurt
We will do that.
for an easement.
Anything else, Chris? Sean?
I had some concerns. I talked to Brian earlier on it, and it goes back to what Michelle had brought up. I mean, it looks like the ordinance requires there to be a berm a green belt or fence or wall. It's a row of evergreens screen along the north side, but and I don't know what the fencing situation is. It appeared that there are fences on the properties to the north, but there's gonna be a lot of headlights and traffic, and I'm just especially with there being 7 more feet over there, is there an opportunity to berm that up a little bit, or to put a, at the back side of the far property line, a decorative vinyl fence, something like that, to knock down some of the light. I mean, it's fairly inexpensive compared to a wall, but could potentially go a long way. I don't know. I mean, you've got to go back to the planning commission for final, but part of our job here is to make sure what you're doing is not going to cause problems for the neighbors.
Absolutely.
Not only to the north, but across that huge field. You provide quite an area to the east, but there are a couple of homes at the end of that, and I think that you've addressed with your revised landscape plan some of that, and I would say that any motion I guess I would make or support should address that if this is insufficient, that further plantings, there's an agreement that further plantings would then be, you would agree to plant, maybe a handful more trees in certain areas in order to knock down headlights, especially this time of year when it's dark most of the day. So
absolutely.
And the hours of operation are going to go, well into the evening. So I just want to be sensitive to that. And I know the planning commission brought it up, and Patty, maybe you can
Yeah, I've got it
go
right.
back
I've
and
got a note, yep.
I really, everything on paper, and I'm not, it has nothing to do with your proposal or you, but everything looks good on paper, and then when it's built and it's out there, landscape-wise and screening-wise, I feel like oftentimes it falls short. And, we did hear from a couple residents, and they may not be here tonight, but we did get letters and emails from them, and, I want to make sure that whatever measures taken addresses, especially to the north there where those headlights all night long are going to be shining into those few houses, not just going through the drive-through, but swinging around that corner. So between Brian and Patty, if you guys could make sure that's just taken care of at the planning commission, I'd appreciate that.
That's a good point.
Okay. Anyone else? Any questions? Okay, a motion would be in order.
Just reiterate.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to reiterate what, Sean had asked about screening in the buffer and asking for it to be beefed up, and I think that all of us are in agreement, and if Patty and if Patty can bring that to the planning commission, that would be fantastic to just beef that up. I do like that you've maximized the distance from the residential as much as possible, and to see if there's a sidewalk connection to reach out, like Chris had mentioned. I would just want to reiterate that as well. So it looks, overall looks pretty good, but and I understand that the review letter says that it reasonably achieves the 9 standards of review, but just kind of really protecting the residents who are in that area.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly your ability and your charge. It's a discretionary standard.
Right.
Absolutely
So
entitled to that.
as long as that's kind of conveyed at your review, I think I'm in support of it.
Okay. I think you got that.
Got it.
Anyone else?
It would probably be my preference that if a motion is made to approve the special land use, that those few things be articulated as conditions that apply to the approval of special land use.
Okay.
So that when it goes back to the planning commission, they have their direction.
All right, Sean, why don't you make that motion?
Make a motion in the case of AP 19-45B that we approve the special land use request, subject to further exploration of an off-site sidewalk to the south with some cooperation from the adjoining neighbor, and also subject to confirmation at the planning commission level that proper screening exists on the north property line adjacent to the homeowners, which again may require further measures than are currently proposed, as well as to the east side of the site adjacent to the proposed basin, for the same purpose of screening lights and noise from residents. Is that everything? Did I miss anything?
No, I'll
You did a
support
good
that.
job. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Thank you all.
See you at the planning commission.
All right, consideration of introduction of ordinance for Township of Lyon to amend parallel plans. Text amendment, AP 1935, ordinance number 01-20. Let's start it out, Brian.
Yep, I will. Thank you, John. If you recall, in July, the township board considered an average lot size development for Sterling Trail, which is just over by Saddle Creek on the south side of Saddle Creek. And one of the items that they provided as part of their packet was a parallel plan, which is basically their zoning plan that shows how many units or how many lots could be achieved through traditional subdivision on a given property. That information was provided to us, although it is not technically an ordinance requirement for a developer to do so. And in my opinion, it is certainly a helpful tool in making sure that we're in the right area in terms of a density. Now, we've talked in the past about using this parallel plan, in determining the exact amount of density that somebody is permitted on a site. And in the ordinance today for the planned development, this parallel plan is intended to be fairly flexible in terms of the density. It's not always applied that way, so we have tweaked some of that language, but basically, but for the most part, copied the regulations from the plan development standards and are wishing to apply them to our other single-family residential development types, the average lot sizing or cluster developments.
Okay.
Brian, wasn't one of the, I'm sorry to jump
Nope,
out
go
of
ahead,
agenda.
go.
Wasn't one of the issues is they showed a parallel plan, but the parallel plan didn't have to, because it wasn't an ordinance requirement, didn't have to show some of the things, or it didn't, all the same standards that were an ordinance requirement were not necessarily in their parallel plan. So while it was a parallel plan, it didn't meet the requirements of our parallel plan ordinance section. So what you're trying to do is put those same ordinance requirements into the section of the ordinance, well, I guess for any residential development, so we can apply those same standards across the board.
Yeah, if I recall, there were some questions about, there were non-regulated wetlands that were
right.
shown on that plan. And by using our existing PD parallel plan language, it does specify in there that it's only regulated wetlands are considered. So what that shows, going back to that particular plan, is they did do it correctly, but
I thought they had regulated wetlands proposed to be filled.
they can
on that one.
they can fill some, yes. They just have to
Omit it from
correct.
the
They
den-
can't.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So really, what we're trying to do here is standardize things across the board for all of our single-family developments, that the same density standards get applied across the board. So.
When it should result in a better, in my mind, more accurate plan as well. So we're,
It should,
you know.
It should, yeah. I do want to take this opportunity while we're talking about this to kind of reiterate the fact that our existing language does really aim to use this parallel plan as a guide rather than a firm density number. So I want to keep that in mind as we go through and continue to review average lot size developments and PDs together, that when we come up with a number for a particular property, let's keep that as a target, but not necessarily the Bible when it comes to that density standard. So.
Any questions? Go ahead.
One question I had on the section A there about the assessment of regulated wetland use.
Mm-hmm.
And the wetland fill. I guess when I looked at these in the past, it was mainly to make sure the parallel plan and the proposed plan had an, equitable amount of wetland fill. So, let's say they were proposing to fill acre wetlands on the parallel plan, but only like 1/10 of an acre on the real plan, because there's a mitigation cost once you hit a certain threshold. That I was just focusing on that being equitable. So I'm not sure if this actually addresses that, because it's kind of based on the district. And maybe we can look at that a little closer on, just trying to, in my mind, it was the parallel plan. If they're going to fill, whatever wetland acreage they want to fill on their parallel plan, their real plan you know, should at least be, you know, that same amount or something.
I would agree with you, but you're not trying, but I would say just, and maybe this is what you mean, we're not forcing the fill, but we're gonna deduct the fill from the end plan too, so they're not getting the best of, that's what you're saying, you're not playing it both ways.
Right, because they could say they're filling 10 acres in to get a higher parallel plan density and then not on theirs.
Right.
And
They
save
try to-
that mitigation cost or something.
And cram more lots in, smaller lot size, and say
Right.
we're still at the same number when it's not apples and apples. Yeah,
Right.
I would agree.
Well, I think this kind of gets towards that in specifying a maximum amount that they can actually fill. And it varies based on the zoning district that you're in, so we're not, they're not filling 10 acres per se to cram in density. They're really limited to basically a single lot of fill on their parallel plan.
This is the first reading also, right?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
So I mean, you still have time to look at it
Yeah.
before it's a second read, so, you know, you can let it sink in a little bit and see what you guys think.
Make a motion to move resolution 2020-01 to second. Oh, I'm jumping ahead.
Yep, see, you did the same thing I did.
Let me try that again.
One above it.
I'll make a motion to move AP 19-35 to second reading,
I'll support.
which would be ordinance number 01-20. Sorry, just to further clarify.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Moving on to adopting our amended utility fee schedule. Leslie, you want to explain it a little bit, or does everybody here need any explaining for this? This is pretty cut and dry. It's our raise each year that we are obligated by contract to do.
Right, per your amended contract, the increase for this year's line wastewater portion is 1.79%, which increased $117.53 per REU. And the total per REU with the township portion is $10,346.88, which is now reflected in the fee schedule that's in your packet.
Anyone have any questions about this?
What about so this is just the sanitary sewer REU fees?
Yes.
I guess I was just a little, just saw the water stuff on there too, but that hasn't
changed.
That hasn't changed,
No.
okay.
The only modification is the sewer capital charge.
Okay. Perfect.
Anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2020-01, adopting the amended utility fee schedule as presented by our engineer.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Moving on. The consideration to approve the extension of moratorium to ensure approvals or permits of off-premise advertising signs, to make sure we don't issue any off-premise signs. Everyone have a chance. We're just extending the moratorium on the signs.
I know we're studying this, John, and I don't have any objection to extending it while we continue further looking at this. Do we think that this 180 days would be
I
sufficient?
don't know, the Carol.
We hope so. Brian and I were talking about it, a couple weeks ago, so we're gonna sit down and, there's a draft of the ordinance.
Sure. I mean, we're trying to do it right, not do it
Right.
twice.
We're
and so
looking at
taking,
everything related to signs, so,
mountain signs are a huge issue and have
Yeah.
been for the last several years,
Right.
so.
So, I mean, this extension will give us a little more time to finish it up, so.
yeah.
Anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2020-06, extension of moratorium on the issuance of approval or permits for off-premise advertising signs.
I'll support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to CES proposal to get a little bit of a raise here. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Leslie for a quick little get-together, but I just want
Long
to...
deserved.
I just want to start by, I think she's well deserving of this. She's worked for us for many years at a very low wage, and she's still going to be at a lower wage, and I'm all for it. But go ahead, Leslie, I don't know
Well,
if you
thank
want to.
you. It has been my pleasure to serve the township for the last 8.5 years, and since entering into our initial contract, we've kept our rates very low, and we'll continue to offer low rates to the township. But I am here tonight to request a fee increase to our hourly rates, as well as the site plan review fees. I've included a proposed fee schedule, along with a few comparisons in your packet, and I appreciate your consideration.
Okay, anybody have any questions, or are we just good at, we'll go ahead and.
Yeah, I would just say that I agree with you, John. Leslie's provided some adjacent communities and organizations fee schedules, and we're still, with her prices, we're still on the cheap end, so I don't have any objection. Her rates have been ridiculously low for quite a number of years. I'm not aware of any firm that works for what she's getting paid now and has got paid for the last number of years, so.
Well, and anyone that works with Leslie day-to-day like I do will tell you she's well worth every cent. And she gives us a lot more than she takes.
Oh, that's for sure. Yeah. We can't be without her.
I may be in the minority, I don't know. The 50% rate increase just seemed a little much.
She's been making $80 an hour.
I'm aware.
For 8 years.
Okay,
That's
well,
not raising the-
I really disagree with that
We
statement,
gave it.
so.
I just wanted to point out that I did call Leslie and ask some questions, and I appreciated the comparison with Lyon Township versus White Lake, and then, you know, the Spicer Group, and to give a perspective. And I was a bit surprised when I had asked her, like, well, where's the cost of living increase built in? And she said that there had not been. So to look at this rate and realize the current rate and realize that really that has been the same for so many years, or close to the same for so many years, without providing any cost of living increase to her employees, not even looking at herself. You know, it's really difficult, I would think, to retain people and to get the level of service if we don't even have that built in. So, I was just surprised that that had not been built in, because how else do you compensate your employees to stay with you if you're at this really, really low rate? So I'm in favor of it, not just because of the level of service that we currently get, but just really bringing her company into line with what neighboring communities. It's not like she picked, you know, like someplace, Charlevoix, someplace that's not even close to us. I mean, she picked Brighton Township, Salem Township, Spicer Group, White Lake. So I'm pretty happy with the comparisons.
Is that a motion?
Sure, it's a motion. I would, unless there's somebody else who wants to chime in,
We
but
can still discuss it.
I would like to make a motion to approve the engineering fee increase as submitted.
Support.
Lots of support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Awesome. You're well worth it, Leslie. Thank you. All right, moving on. 2020 salary resolutions for Township Board.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2020-02, Township Supervisor salary.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Make a motion oh, this thing's so goofy. I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2020-03, Township Clerk salary.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I meant to say aye I was messing with it, so I'm in the aye as yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2020-04, Township Treasurer salary.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-05, salary for the Township Trustees. Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thanks. Awesome.
A little slow on the trustees there.
I was writing.
All right, moving on to H, the discussion about public roads. And this was something that has been coming up, and I wanted to bring it to this board to at least get a discussion going. Here a few years back, and it's been a while now, we made the decision to ban all private roads in the township. And when we did that, we banned all private roads, we banned all shared driveways, and everybody now has to become a public road that's given to Oakland County. And we sit here day in and day out as a board, and we want to keep the township rule, okay? We're always talking, well, everybody wants to build a PD, everybody wants to do this. Well, partially the problem is no one can afford to put the road into the projects because it's so expensive to put a county road in a small piece of property. So the one thing that got me going on this is I had a resident come in, and they have a 30-acre piece of property, and they wanted to put 3 homes on the property. And they can't do it. They can't do it. They can't get to the back of the 30 acres because they'd have to build a public road to get it there. So automatically...
They'd have to pave it, wouldn't they? The county, in order to do that, they would have to put a paved
Public
road.
spec road,
But it
30
can't be
acres.
gravel, it has to be a paved road, correct?
It has to be an Oakland County spec road for 3 houses on 30 acres.
I feel like that's a competing interest because we want to keep certain sections of the township rural, and
exactly.
you know, many people like living on gravel roads. I don't, but I would live on a gravel road, and if it's taking that option away, you're forcing areas that could remain rural to.
Exactly, and that's why I have this discussion. I mean, if a guy comes in and he wants to put a gravel driveway and put 3 houses off, he can't do it.
Yeah.
And that would keep that 30 acres very rural.
Right.
But instead, we say, okay, you have to have a public road with curbing and, you know, all the entrance off the main roads, and it becomes so much money to do that. He can't do it with 3 houses. He can't do it.
It does away with the simple land divisions, the simple meets and bounds land division parcels with, you know, large acreage tracts, and I think that's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, and that's all they have. So I was talking to Leslie a little bit, who works with Green Oak, and I know Carol works with Green Oak. They have things in place for private roads because they do a lot of private roads. And I think you have documentation that we could probably put together and make sure that their maintenance agreements were held in place. And, you know, I was looking through some of the different items that they list in there, and one was like, if you have 6 houses or under on a piece of property, and I didn't notice how big the property was, but if you have 6 houses or under, you can put a gravel road into that piece. If 6 houses and over, you have to go to pavement. And it's not so much as a county paved road spec, it's a paved road. It's just a private road that you're gonna put in privately.
Yeah, and I don't even know why we'd limit it to 6 if people want to put a gravel road in.
But see,
and they're
that's all
building
things
it
that we
to
can
spec.
talk about, but I wanted to bring it to this board because a guy walks in and he says, hey, I just want to put 3 houses in there. You can't do it. You can't do it.
I would rather him put 3 houses and keep 3 houses
There-
on big chunks than to have it go the way of
Exactly.
a big neighborhood in an area where we don't want big neighborhoods.
Exactly, but see, we kind of force them to PDs because that's the only way you can afford the road.
Right. Well, I like where you're going with this.
So basically, I wanted to ask this board, could we basically, and it may take a committee for this too, I don't know, but maybe sit down and figure out how we could bring back private roads and shared driveways to our township.
I think it's easier than you think of.
Maybe it is, I don't know.
I mean, lots of communities have private road ordinances, and it's
lot
simply.
Well, we
you
used
know,
to have one.
Well, I mean, at
We
work,
used to.
somebody comes in, they have 20 acres, they bring to our office an engineering plan for a road. Engineering and fire department make sure it meets all the specs. Assessing does a division on the parcel once they have all the split application and the survey information. They build the roads, they get the lots, they sell 5-acre lots, and we have, you know, low density rural areas.
That's what we're working for, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I think that this would be a Bigfoot step forward to actually keep it at rural, you know, to get it more rural.
John,
Well,
John, you bring up a good point. Sorry. And like Patty, in the back of our neighborhood, if you did something like that, and I mean that's paved, it's not even gravel. You
Right.
still have like the open ditch and
Right, they do.
and you know no sidewalks. There's only like 15 homes back
Yeah.
there, you know,
And they're on acreage.
and they're on acreage pieces.
But that's nice.
Yeah. So I
You know,
think you're
but
on
we
the,
took that away. We took that away several years ago. We took that away from our residents, that they can't put one driveway and put a couple houses off a driveway. They can't even do that. So I just thought I'd bring that up to see how you felt about it.
They can do it, it's just so expensive that you.
Well, no, you have to have a public road going back
I
to
know.
2
Well, that's-
houses.
It's more the expense.
You know,
Well,
and then
John,
I sat, oh, go ahead, Lisa.
Well, I mean, I live on a gravel road and I love it because a lot of people will avoid a gravel road because they don't want to get their cars dirty. And I think that it does provide a little bit more of a quiet, living experience. I mean, like I said, I enjoy it. And if I look at a situation of, let's say, for instance, somebody wants to split a back parcel for whether it's an aging parent or it's a young, a young adult member of their family, if they just want to split that to give their, let's say, their young adult son or daughter a leg up where they don't have to go out and buy a new house. And if you just want to split that property and have a shared driveway, you really can't. And to have something like this in place, it might provide more of an opportunity to allow people to stay in the township who want to stay in the township, but they just can't find a way to split their parcel, especially too, some of these lots are real narrow and go way back.
That's the
and you
big,
can't,
that's the problem.
some people don't want to have 20 acres, or they might want to split it into, 2, 3, 4 lots. I mean, I'm definitely in favor of
And
having
then,
Carol put something together to help us in that.
well, talking about that also, we have another ordinance that we talked about, that ratio, 1-to-4 ratio, on the distance to the width.
With the depth, yeah.
And that doesn't work in Lyon Township either, because there's a lot of long, narrow pieces that it just
Right.
doesn't work. So I don't know if there's something we could, work on to do with that.
Is that a land division act
It might be land
issue?
division.
I think it's a land division act
So
issue.
you don't get
There is the
flagpole.
Land Division Act of
We
1
have
to 4
ordinance, though.
ratio, but that act allows you to have local control over that. So if we have a local ordinance that changes or modifies that ratio, we're allowed to enact that and go by that standard.
That hurts us too, because there's a lot of long, narrow pieces in the township.
Yeah, you'd be surprised, there are a lot.
I mean, I know that if I had an opportunity to split the back half of my property and like build a small home for my parents or a small home for my daughter, although she hasn't graduated yet, but that would be an opportunity I, as a property owner, would like to have. But there's no way I could. I mean, I would want to go with a shared driveway situation. I couldn't even do that, even though I might have the acreage.
I feel like with the ordinances that we have in place, we're acting more of a city than a township. We're holding our residents to act like cities, to build big major roads. And then I sat in a meeting with Oakland County Roads, that it was an SAD meeting for a road that they own. It was Deer Creek over here. I sat in the meeting, and the proposal that they gave to them people was crazy. It was like they're going to tear all the roads out, they're going to re-ditch everything, and that's all they'll do, and it's $20,000 per resident on them roads. $20,000 per resident over 10 years. And it's like, they don't want the roads, they don't want to take care of the roads, so why do we always force the roads on them? And then they have total control over how they're taken over in the future. And I just think that we could really make this a lot better. We could really work these ordinances out so they work for the community. I think we could do that if we put our heads together and just not throw out private roads and shared driveways and force every road in the township to Oakland County. And that's just my discussion. I'd like to know if you guys would all, or everyone here would like to look at looking at some ordinances to change that. I would love to do that.
Not opposed at all. I mean, I think they just, at least for the private roads, it's the 20 years down the road, that making sure those maintenance agreements are tight, and through sale of ownership, that there is some mechanism to maintain those, because
I agree with that.
That seems to be the biggest thing with some of the old ones, that there was never a maintenance agreement and it was private, and no one, unless they're all cooperative with each other, they'll never get.
I think Carol's firm could help us out with that, right? And Leslie could help us out with that. And we could probably, Brian, and get something put together, maybe bring it back to have you guys look at it. Would you be good with that?
Yes.
Everybody? John?
Yeah.
Okay. Elise, you're good?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
There
Well,
has
that's
to
what.
be some standards, because what kills gravel roads is no drainage.
Right. And we'll make some
Design and
standards, but like I
maintenance
said,
standard, yeah.
we can work some standards out. I mean, we can work that out, but it's gonna cost a little bit of money to probably get this going. Is everyone okay with a little bit of money? I mean, it wouldn't be,
Yes.
okay. All right, that's all I have.
Okay.
Hey, Jen.
Motion to adjourn?
Support.
All those in favor? Oh, you got something? Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I,
No, go ahead.
no,
We're
I'm good.
You
I
sure?
was gonna say probably go green, right?
You sure you're good?
Go away.
Well, the women's.
Okay, so who made the motion? Sorry.
Motion to adjourn?
And
Okay.
Lisa, you supported?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.